just joined, so I don't know if there's any discussion on how we would proceed in this meeting, but I guess call to order. It's so funky being virtual, so I just want to let me know if I'm not hearing somebody or if there's a number of things that aren't being communicated when we're all kind of being distracted, and I'm owning that, so just let me know. If you need me to go over something, we need to slow down. But I was also thinking more being in this like note taker and kind of letting you guys drive the conversation, let Cynthia kind of showcase, give it maybe a baseline of understanding, and then going from there. I don't know what, Rick, if there was any specific, like, or if you had it more structured and you said, no, I think that, looking at a certain aspect is going to kind of dictate this conversation better.
No, that's great. So I'll just say, we can do introductions in just a moment here, but I'm hoping that Cynthia, you can give us kind of an overview about what NEMRIC does, and then allow for questions from the group about what we are using and not using that NEMRIC might make available to us. And I've got at least one question about that Lori and I talked about last night, actually. And then once we let Cynthia go, I've got some updates for you all that I picked up with meetings at the bank and that kind of stuff this week too that I want to share. So is Hal in the room? Has Hal arrived?
Has not. No.
He told me he would be a little late, so he said if it was being recorded, it would be great. So I can record. I can also record from this mode if Cynthia was going to do screen sharing, or if any of that is applicable. So that way, in addition to, I don't know if NEK-TV is present, but that would be added to this format, or is that redundant? That would be helpful. I see Lori shaking your head. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're turning on the video then, Karen? Great. So Karen, maybe you could just have folks do introductions to help Cynthia kind of orient herself, and then Cynthia, you could start us with just a brief overview. Oh, and I'll just say also, I asked Stacy and Jim, and I think Frank, to be in the room as well, because I think it could be good for them to hear what Cynthia has to say, and also because I think if there's anybody among us who can answer questions about how we're currently using NEMRIC, it's probably Stacy at this point. So thank you, Stacy. Is Jim here too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, all three of you, Jim, Stacy, and Frank, for joining us on a Friday.
Rick, I wonder if because you were the lead on this meeting that I'm not able to record. Are you able to?
Oh, let me see. Hold on, I bet I can. Yes.
That'll be probably.
Or better yet, would you mind to go ahead and making me the code? Because if you have to leave early, then it might stop recording. If you have to leave early.
Here, I don't know how to add you in Google.
Okay, then I guess you're here with Cynthia. That's probably the most crucial part.
I think I can turn it, and I think I can turn it on from here. So.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, you're right. A city manager. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, I want to, intro, maybe start with the room. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Apologies.
So I guess I'll start. I'm Lori Grimm. I've been in Newport for about 18 and a half years. And my background at the moment is a business analyst for a farm credit bank out of South Carolina. And I do software stuff. And I'm very interested in NEMRIC and the security settings, which will come up in questions in a little bit.
I'm Susie Small. I have been a resident of Newport for almost 3 years, and I'm a financial advisor. And I'm very interested just in the budgetary and cash flow uses in NEMRIC.
I'm Travis Gaines, a Newport resident for about 2 years now. I'm the administrative head of school at UCA, a private Christian school here, but also have a background in medical device sales.
I'm Jim Johnson. I'm a city clerk. I've been here for all my life.
I'm Stacy Terrian, Assistant City Clerk Treasurer. I've been in this position 20 years.
Go for it, Frank.
You're going to introduce yourself? Frank Cheney. I've lived here for 60 years. I do the tax assessment, grant administration, among many other things here for the city.
And we also have some audience participation, so they'll speak up if they have questions. Carter?
Awesome. Residents of Newport. Hi, I'm Carter Finnegan. I am on the City Council of Newport, but I also work with Northeastern Vermont Development Association, so our Regional Planning Commissioner on grants. And that is what I was trying to do this week, but focusing back here at the Financial Task Force, I'm mostly kind of corresponding and bringing the City Council into the fold and trying to address some learning curves we got ahead of us. So, yeah, I don't know, pass to Rick or Cynthia. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Rookie mistake. I'll just jump in and say Cynthia and I had a chance to meet. So, you know, Cynthia, that I've been on City Council for a year and in the position of mayor for just a month. I'm learning like crazy. And I want to make sure you know, Cynthia, that we are holding these meetings under open meeting law, and therefore they're pretty transparent. We've been talking extremely openly about everything that we're confronting, but we're also being filmed, and Pam Lads, who was there in the room, is filming for NEK-TV, so it'll go up on a YouTube channel sometime in the next few days probably. So just wanted you to be aware of that, okay?
I'll try not to swear.
It wouldn't be the first.
You won't be first or last. Usually me.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of my background first, just so you can know who I am, and then a little bit of NIMRIC's background, and then I'll let you just dive into it. I didn't really prepare anything. I wasn't sure. I did do a little bit of research, looked at your audit, and looked at your chart of accounts and some different things. So I'm a little bit familiar with where you're at, but so I have been in municipal government for probably, I don't know, probably 28 years now. I started my Vermont municipal government career as a treasurer, elected treasurer in Westminster, Vermont when I was in my 20s. I met Ernie through that, Ernie is the president of NIMRIC, and when I had my kids, he asked if I would come to work for him, and so I did. I started working 10 hours a week and then quickly turned into full-time. So that's where it all kind of started. I took a 5-year hiatus from NIMRIC, and from 2012 to 2017, and I was the town manager and finance director in the town of Putney, Vermont. Came back to work for NIMRIC as the director of support and training, and so I've been here ever since. I don't intend to take a hiatus again. This is what I love to do, and I know so many of the towns all over the state of Vermont. I've been all over the state of Vermont working, consulting, helping with setting up new clients and that kind of thing. So that's a little bit of my background. So I'm very, the open meeting law, I love the transparency, all of that is just super familiar to me. So that's all, that all makes total sense to me. As far as NIMRIC, so NIMRIC was started 30 plus years ago, basically with the Grand List program, which is the tax assessing program. That's where the tax bills print out of. The program was designed by Ernie, who is the president of our company. He lives up in Georgia, Vermont. We're all remote. We work all from home. We don't have a central office. So we're all over the state of Vermont. And so it started with the Grand List program. Every town in the state of Vermont right now has our Grand List program. That's the tax software. That's where the property tax bills print from. So then it went into creating the financial package and the town clerk package. So we have 26 different modules, I think, right now. I'd have to double check it. I haven't looked recently, but and the financial package consists of general ledger, accounts payable, payroll, utility billing, tax administration, cash receipts. They're each their own standalone module where everything flows into the general ledger, which is the financial reporting. That's where everything ends up. That's where you end up getting your trial balances, your balance sheets, your details of accounts, revenues, expenses, that kind of thing, your budget. So what the city is utilizing right now is general ledger, cash receipts. Let me just back up for a minute. I'll get into what you guys are using. So the software is a part of NIMRIC, but NIMRIC is New England Municipal Resource Center. So we are a resource center that is comprised of, at this point, I think we're up to 27 employees. Most of those are on the property assessing side. We do townwide reappraisals. So a lot of our employees are there, but the core staff of support and the financial side of it, we have 5 of us. Every one of us has held a position at a town office, either as a manager, finance director, city treasurer, town clerk. On the listing side, we have people that have been listers, select board members, they're property appraisers. So all of us have been involved in municipal government in the state of Vermont for, I wouldn't even want to combine the number of years because it would be, you would think we were all ancient. So the bigger piece of our company, yes, it's the software, but the bigger piece is our consulting side, our resource center side. We have been a resource for local municipal government in the capacity of filling in if they lose an employee that has quit or retired and they haven't filled the position. We offer a bulk time agreement where we can go in. I'm working as the finance director in a town right now until they can replace their finance director. So we fill in that capacity. We offer listing, what is it called? It's a lister work. So if you don't have listers in your town, we will send somebody there that can help with that kind of stuff. So we have people call us, our support line. We average between this time of year 60 to 70 calls a day. Sometimes it's about the software. Sometimes it's about what do you guys know about this article warning we want to put on. So we can answer those kinds of questions. And we also work with Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns pretty closely because we know what they can answer better than we can and vice versa. So we partner with them to make sure that if we're asked a question that's really not in our purview, we send it along to them. But between all of us, we can pretty much answer anything related to municipal government in the state of Vermont. We do have clients that are we have one, the Havasupai Indian tribe in Arizona. They're one of our clients. They've been a client for years. So we have a few out-of-state clients, but it's mostly centered in Vermont. So the consulting side and the municipal resource center side is a huge part of what we do. So yes, we're a software company, but I would say that that's the bigger side of what we do. Our software is currently in a Fox Pro programming language. I'm going to tell you technical programming stuff. I don't do any of it, so I'm just regurgitating what I've been told. So if there's more detailed software questions, I would have to refer you to somebody else. We have some of our software that's currently being converted over to what is called a .NET system, which is a Windows-based system, bringing it more into the, the system we're using is a little bit, I don't want to say it's antiquated, but it's older. And that language is starting to, we have a Fox Pro programmer, he does a great job, but we need to move up. We're a small Vermont company, we're not Microsoft, so getting programming done is expensive and it's a slow process for us. But our CAMA software, which is the property assessing software, is the one that we're currently putting into the .NET world. The dog program is already there. And then we also offer a cloud-based system. And I think you guys right now are not on the cloud-based system. You must have a server there that houses your programs.
May I ask a question?
So,
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since you mentioned it, does our computer person work? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is about the server, in case there's issues or problems. Is that something that you guys come in
We have
and
an
help
IT
with, or is
Yeah.
that local?
We use, yeah, we used to offer IT services, but it's somebody else for you.
Okay, so our local, well,
Dennis Gilmore.
okay, thank you.
Yep. So I do just want to touch briefly on the discussion of the cloud-based program. So we have about, I want to say we have about 300 users, 250 users. Now that's users, that doesn't mean towns, but on our cloud-based system, and it's a system where you can access remotely, like if you're at home and you need to do some work, or if you offer the ability to a council or a select board to have access to reports, they could access it from home. So that cloud-based system is there. I know that you guys are not using it right now, and I know there's been some hesitation because we did have a problem with it back in October, November, with connectivity issues. So there was a lot of negative press we were getting around that. We have resolved that issue, and so if there's, and I've heard that you guys might be having some issues with maybe the cash receipt module. And some, I don't know if it's dropping transfers or what's happening, but I think if you move to the cloud-based system, that problem would probably stop. I think it has something to do with the network, but I don't want to get too much into that, but I just wanted to make sure if there was some hesitation in using the cloud that was addressed, because we have addressed that issue on our end. It was an Amazon server issue that we had, and we now have 3 different servers instead of just the one. They told us we had unlimited users, and unlimited meant 100. So.
Sorry. Don't mean a lot.
It's funny now. It was not funny at the time. It was very stressful, but it is funny that they said that to us, and that's just not the case. But we have resolved that, and things seem to be much more stable. So.
Can I ask a question?
Somebody, yes.
Can I ask a question? Cynthia, how many of these modules are cloud-based? I thought it was just dog.
No, that's the .NET.
Okay.
So I'm talking about our cloud server.
Oh, to back up to you through the cloud, because we would do our own backups. Is that,
No, this
what you
is
mean?
the cloud server where you access your programs. So instead of you having the programs and the data on your own local server,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
you log into our cloud server, and then your desktop of network options come up there.
Thank you.
The other one is a Windows-based. The dogs that you're talking about is the Windows-based version.
Okay.
So they're 2 different things. Does anybody else have the questions about? I mean, that's pretty much, unless you have other questions about like who we are. I don't know if you want to get into.
You started to give us a little bit of a sense of what you know we already have. Could you kind of complete that circuit for us?
Yep. So what you know is that you back in 1996. We use General Ledger, which is the final, where all the finance end up through your reports come from, your financial statements. Cash receipts, which is the that's where your money comes through. That's where you post payments. Utility billing and tax administration, those are your receivable modules. Utility billing is for your water, sewer. Taxes is for your property taxes. Grand List, that's the property tax billing software. Accounts payable, where you're paying your bills. Payroll. And then the animal license program on the town clerk side and the marriage program on the town clerk side. As far as modules are concerned and what we have to offer in the financial package, the only thing that you're really not using is we have a fixed asset module that will track your capital assets.
We have the fixed asset module. We don't use it.
You do?
Yes, it's never been used.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because I was just going by the list you said of what you used,
Yeah.
but you've purchased it, it hasn't been used.
Correct.
Okay.
And what is that track
And
again?
then,
Fixed assets.
PPE.
say that again?
Oh,
My apologies
Go
for
ahead.
being late. On the GL for financials, I was doing a little research online the other day. Does that include a cash flow capability? I didn't think so.
No, no. I knew that was going to be one of the questions today. Yeah, no, there is no, the program does not produce a cash flow statement.
What?
So if I could press on that a little bit, what do towns do that need it?
Well, so my question always is when somebody asks me is what other than, I mean, obviously I understand the cash flow statement and you're wanting to look at projections and where are we going to end up and that kind of thing. But what I'm finding is when I'm being asked about it, it's because a bank is requiring it, but they're not really wanting to use it. So that's my question kind of back to you guys is what are you going to use it for? Like, what is the hope?
Rick's probably in the best case to answer this, but I
Well,
think we need just a general assessment of when revenues are coming in, when they're going out, most importantly, when they're going out.
Yeah. I mean, so if you want to know when revenues are coming in and you want to know when revenues are going out, you have there's a revenue and a budget status report. It shows you these are your revenues you've got in, these are the ones you've got out. And you can do it, there is a custom report, you can do it by month if you want it. So that's somewhat of a cash flow statement, but if you're wanting to do projections based on past revenue and what you got in for months, it's a little bit more difficult in a municipality because you're not, I mean, especially for a general fund, the general fund is the one that most of your money is coming from taxes. And so the cash flow for that is whatever your installments are a year. If there's 2 installments, then it's September and February is when you're getting most of the money. But then some of the other stuff is really hard to predict when you're getting that money because a lot of grant money isn't predictable, like what months it's going to come in. So I guess what I would want to say to you without just flatly saying, no, we can't help you with that, or no, there isn't a button you can push right now, but we could probably help you develop something that would work for you. But everybody's idea of that statement and what their needs are is very different, is what I found out. So we work with the town or the city to say, what is the goal? What is it that you need to understand on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, whatever it is, and let's help you build it. We do have a lot of custom reports that are built into our system already from requests of past clients that have needed specifics to their specific municipality. And those are available. If you've gone to our website, it's under the support FAQs. And every module has a section called custom reports and we list them there and we can help you set them up. It tells you like the description, what it will, and what the input will be and what the output will be. So that might be something we'd want to look for, but probably what would be more helpful is if you work with one of our staff to say, this is what we're looking for. This is the kind of information we're looking to get out of there. And without knowing your process of posting and how timely things are done, I'm assuming they're pretty timely, but that also affects whether the information from some type of cash flow is going to be helpful or not.
And to work with your company to create a custom report, is that come with a consulting fee as well, or is that included in the support package that we currently have?
If it's something that we do not have, then yes, it does, because we have to have a programmer do it.
So you don't have
But,
any open custom reporting tool that the city can use? The custom reporting
Well, like I
tool
said,
is for the developers to use. It's not something that, say, one of the city employees could try to create a custom report.
So we have a custom report generator that will allow you to pick certain fields to be exported.
Sure.
So yes, there is the ability for the city to try to figure something out in that. We can, that if you want to call the support line and say, hey, walk me through this custom report generator, that's just part of your support contract, that your annual support, we can help you with that.
Okay.
The custom reports that I was talking about that have already been developed, those are out there for you to try with no extra fee.
Sure.
And then if there's one of them that's out there that is close, but it's not quite, there might just be a small fee to get it to where it needs to be, but it's already been mostly developed, so we wouldn't have to start from scratch. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So is that under, like, for example, would we go to the accounting modules on the website? Is that where we would find it? That's where we would find it,
Yep.
under support? Okay.
Yep, it goes to support FAQs, and then under there, each module is listed.
Yes.
And then in the reports section, there's a custom reports available. It's just a big, and it'll tell you what the file name is, what the description, what you select for options, and then the input and output. And you can just try any one of those, and you can call, somebody could call support, we can tell them how to set one up, and if it doesn't work, how to delete it. But those are ones we've developed for other clients over the years. Somebody has paid for it at one time or another, but they're available now for everybody to use.
That's good to know.
Rick, I interrupted you. You were going to ask a question around cash flow statements.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of the conversation today, you've effectively answered my question, Cynthia. You know, my challenge has been for the last year that I came out of the nonprofit world, where I was accustomed to being able to get a cash flow projection every month of the year that would change every month based on our actuals to date and our projection about what would happen the rest of the year. And I felt like I'm flying blind as a council member for a year now. And we have an additional problem right now, which is that we are in a genuine cash flow crisis. And it's very difficult for me as the mayor and for our council to get a sense of, you know, are we in fact going to run out of money in 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 12 weeks or where are we?
Yeah, I mean, as the manager in Putney, when I would get, when
Sounds
I,
like some of
Oh.
We're losing you, Rick.
yeah, we're losing you. So let me just, while he's kind of fading in and out, let me just respond. So when I was the manager in Putney, this time of year, obviously we're all in the same boat, especially if you're a July, June 30th year end. And so I would get to this time of year and I would run a budget status report. I had an Excel spreadsheet, it was outside of the system, but I would have a budget status report that I would start plugging in, what do I anticipate to get in between now and the end of the year? Now, like I said, I don't know, I haven't examined your data enough to understand if this time of year you have regular cash flow that you would be able to even predict, other than if maybe you have some water and sewer billings that are pretty, they have certain times that you're billing, you have certain times that they're due. That's pretty simple. Water and sewer is a different animal than the general fund, because those are more predictable, I should say. Whereas at this time of year, I would be sitting there saying, okay, we haven't received XYZ grant to cover an expense that we had this year, but those are not predictable most of the time when you're actually going to receive the payment. So there really isn't a way in the system, especially when grants or those things that are not regular, that you probably have been funding a project or something throughout the year using tax money, knowing you're getting money in from another source, but that source hasn't told you when that money's coming in. So where do you put that on a cash flow? Because you're not being told, and so there's nothing in the system that you push the button and say, we know it's coming XYZ time. So that's why I think it's been difficult, and it was difficult for me as the manager. That's why I really had to sit down and not worry about the NIMRIC system or my financial system. I had to look at the numbers and then start looking at my sources and call them when is this money coming in? And then I made my own like, this is where I know I'm getting money. This is what I know my regular bills are. This is what I anticipate for bigger expenses. And that's not something that's in the system where you can push a button, like in a business where it's pretty predictable. This is a little bit, there's some things that are very predictable and there's some things that are just not. I mean, I'm thinking about the towns this year that were in a situation where they have millions of dollars they've been spending on floods damage with absolutely no idea when they were getting money in. And so to even try to predict what their cash flow is going to be it was a little scary, to be honest with you. You know, and I think that's why those places had to take out. But I think if everything is running really well and things are being done in a timely manner, it's easier to start building something that looks similar to a cash flow statement. It just might not be a button that you're going to push in NEMRIC. I don't know. We'd have to see what that looks
Understood.
like.
Okay, that's enough for me today. So I'm sure there are other questions from the committee. So.
Okay.
So I'll ask the question that Rick and I discussed last night, and you might have already answered this question as well. Are there any security issues that would prevent someone in the office here from actually getting to sections of the reports? Or I'll just give an example. I work in a financial system that operates, this has been around for 30, 40 years, and it operates on a segregation of duties. So different people have different permissions and are able to see different things in the system. I'm just asking, is that something that happens here?
Yes.
Is that something that is?
Yeah, I can't tell you what happens there now.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that the software has that capability to do that.
Yes, everything is password.
So one thing that I was trying to do when I was getting prepared for this was, typically we have what we call a disaster recovery agreement with most of our towns, where they back up their data to us nightly, and so we're able to see their data to kind of get a sense of where they're. So I looked, and you guys don't have that, so I wasn't able to actually get into your data to see what your setup was. I asked Stacy for a trial balance, and she graciously sent that to me just so I could see, where what your trial balance looked like. But to answer your question specifically, yes, there are levels of security that can happen in the software itself, the modules, where we have the level of security that a password could be given to someone to get into, like, say, the general ledger, and only access reporting on certain account numbers. That's the level of security we could get, and not have the ability to change anything or even access the menu items where you could change anything.
Okay.
On the cloud, if you were to go to the cloud system, that can even be individual passwords that are two-factor authentication to get into the desktop. Then a person may only even see the icon that they're allowed to use, like general ledger or taxes. So they wouldn't even have access, and then the level of password within the module would then even limit even more if you wanted to.
I'm going to interject one question. Cynthia, I apologize, I was running late today. Are you with NEMRIC? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Since we have the installed desktop version right now, do we have back-end access at all so that we can go in and take data and create it sounds like we can build our own reports with the data in the system, it sounds like. That is the case?
If you have access to our modules, there is a custom report generator that will let you select data fields within our data files to export to, like, Excel or a text file or something. So you have that ability to do that if you have access to the software under the custom report generator.
Gotcha. And is that like a SOC 2 type of reporting system that you have available?
So,
I don't know what that, I'm sorry.
yeah, so we're asking if you have the SOC, do you have a SOC type 2 report, which would give us a greater understanding of your security and policies related to that. Did you give?
I would have to ask Ernie, so I just want to put out there, so we had a security, and maybe some of you have heard about it, a few years ago, we had somebody did a security audit of some towns that use our software. And there was a few things that came out in it. They felt like there was some personally identifying information that people could get if they could get into the data files. And so all of the personally identifying information that is in our data files, like social security numbers, that kind of thing, all of that is encrypted within the data file itself. So if you have access to like the custom report generator and you export like payroll information, that file is going to be a memo field that's not going to be able to export so you could see it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Other than that, any security questions at a deeper level as to what we have for information we could provide, I'm happy to give you Adam's contact information and he would be happy to answer those questions. He's more, I think you missed me saying that when I start using these technical like computer IT security terms, I'm really regurgitating what somebody's told me. I'm not like really versed in it. So I would always defer to Adam to answer those questions so that you guys feel more comfortable with the answers.
The reason that I asked the question that I did, and it's highly possible that Stacy and Jim can answer these as well, is because the system that I work in, you know, it has pretty strict segregation of duties. So like, you know, Stacy would do one thing, Robin would do something else, Jim would do something else, you know. However that flows within the office. But also there are limitations on things like, you know, this person can only do these reports and this person can only do those reports. And just in the conversation in the last week, you know, the question is who can actually do stuff? Are we restricted? Is your access restricted to the fact that maybe there's stuff out there that this system can do for us that we don't know we can do because maybe our access is too restricted? I don't know. That's.
So I can tell you in the 25 plus years that I've done this, the restrictions and access to our software at the town level, like I said, we have the ability in the software to set it however your policy is. I can tell you it's been pretty lenient. Like our software doesn't like look at users and say, oh, this person shouldn't be doing this and this at the same time. We don't want the software to drive you. We want you to drive the software based on what policies you have. So because we understand that Vermont municipal government, there might be an office that there is one person and they do everything. And they are elected and they don't really have a person that's their boss. So we can't have the software be so restricted. That's why we want, so it all starts with whatever your internal financial policy is, and then we can build the security and levels for you based on that. I mean, segregation of duties obviously is a huge, it needs to be done. It's just not the case in a lot of offices because they just don't have the capacity.
Right.
So,
I'm
but like I said, the software will be able to be set up however your policy needs to be, is adopted or whatever you're going to do.
So just so we can, I don't want to chew a lot of soup here. Can you recommend what other communities, can you identify a couple of the reports that they've built to help them manage cash flows, custom reports? Can you help us through identifying those for us? Because it sounds like whatever we do, we're going to have to come up with something that involves some manual manipulation. If we can take a takeaway of here's what other groups have done that you can share with us, so we invest our time wisely, and then we have to figure out how to come up with some kind of schedule, whether it's, like, here's what we have, the best we can. But if you could help us with identifying a couple of those, that would be immensely helpful.
I will ask around, I'll ask my staff, I'll put the word out and see if other, I don't know a lot of, I don't know who's doing what, so we'll put the word out and we'll see what we can get for you.
Okay.
You had mentioned.
I have two related questions. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
So I have two related questions that I didn't even know I would have because I didn't understand what you all do until we got on. But one is, if we were interested, given the fact that we don't have a city manager and we don't even have an office manager, financial person right now, we just have Stacy in the treasurer's office trying to hold it all together. If we were interested in trying to hire someone for a 6-month contract or something like that, is that something that Nemrick would have the capacity to take on?
We don't have the capacity to take it on, like someone being there on a regular basis 2 or 3 days a week. We have the capacity to take on certain parts of it, and sometimes and a lot of what we're doing right now is remote work, because just the driving to places it's kind of a waste of money for the towns, because we have to charge you for our hours on the road, and most of us that are doing this work live, in southern Vermont. So that's kind of the model we've been doing is what are the things you guys can handle on the ground that you have to be in the office, and then what are the things that you need help with and some support with? That's where we've kind of filled in. Yeah.
Okay, and you would have the capacity to talk with us about a contract like that soon as ASAP.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the right place to say it, but there's a couple things I just want to point out that I noticed. Do you guys want me to tell you the couple things I noticed in your chart of accounts and that while I was looking?
Yep.
So one of the things that stood out the most was your chart of account structure. Like I said, you guys started in 1996. The chart of accounts hasn't changed other than maybe you guys adding some account numbers along the way since then. And you're using a 1-digit fund number, which limits the number of funds you've got up within the system. NEMRC is a fund accounting system that will track separate accounting funds that you might have money pooled, like you have one bank account, and it will track your due to froms in between those funds automatically so that the system tracks all that for you. So right now, because of the limitation of that 1-digit fund, I'm noticing that some of your funds have more than one reserve that you're tracking. So in other words, like you might have a projects fund that has several different projects in it. So you're having to work on those individually outside of the system, I guess. But so that was one thing I noticed is a look at your chart of accounts and doing a little bit of an overhaul to streamline it a little bit more, maybe get rid of some older account numbers, some that, that added and were only used one time. So doing a cleanup like that, that would allow you to streamline your reporting to maybe suppressed headers so that you have some shorter reports to look at on a regular basis. So the chart of accounts was a big one that kind of stuck out to me when I looked at it, and just trying to, I guess, just clean it up a little bit. I mean, it doesn't look terrible. It's just I think the general fund had 40 pages of trial balance. That's a lot. And I know Stacy might be able to answer that question. Are there a lot of account numbers that are not used?
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, every time they do something new, they create a new account for a revenue and an expense to track it instead of using some of the older numbers. But yeah, we need to clean it up because there's some serious.
Yeah, so that would be one thing that I would think if you were to talk with us about doing a little bit longer term contract to kind of get things sorted out and just do a review of your system and see if there's anywhere where we can streamline things you might not be using.
And then making it a little bit more in line with making sure the system's set up the way, like the auditor has governmental funds, proprietary funds, which is your water and sewer, fiduciary, capital, and long-term debt. And so making sure those are in the system so that you can somewhat produce reports that look similar to what you're getting from your CPA firm, so that you can make some comparisons and make sure that what you're reporting looks like what they're reporting. And then, so that was kind of just my takeaway, just quickly looking at just a trial balance. It was really about the chart of accounts, because then when it comes to reporting things like a cash flow or revenues versus expenses, what your fund balances are, that kind of thing, once you clean up that chart of accounts and make it more user-friendly, the reporting gets a lot better for the people that are overseeing the budget and your financial status. So that was just some quick thoughts that I had when I saw it. That was the only thing I could look at was the trial balance.
And just so everybody here knows too, whenever I create an account or create a trial balance, I don't print anything that's zero. So you don't see everything, because only if there's money in it will you see it. So that way it's not a bunch of wasted paper.
Yeah, the one you sent me, I think Stacy had, and I was glad you sent me everything, because it was I was able to see everything. Well, to me, a zero balance in some things is a number. Sometimes it shouldn't be zero.
Right.
So I've always had people say that, they're like, just send me everything with just zeros. I'm like, I know, but zero's a number. What if it's supposed to be 1,000?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I understand what you're talking about, especially those one-offs, that there's a revenue and expense for a grant and it's never going to be used again. Then you wouldn't want to do that every time, but.
Cynthia, can I just ask you about the budget? Did you say you have something that generates a budget? In other words, when we put in a whole slew of actuals for electricity costs or whatever for each department, and then I assume it can be added up, and then does it get transposed if we want it into the budget?
So in NEMRC, there's a budget maintenance option where you input the budget that's been voted on. And then as you spend money or bring money in, the cumulative total adds up, and then there's a budget status report that shows you, here's my budget, here's my actuals, and this is the balance of whatever is left of the budget. Or if you're overspent, or if you're underspent, or that kind of thing. So it's called a budget status report.
And can it be more detailed? In other words, somebody the other day suggested that, let's say, having a category of utilities wasn't enough. We really needed to know how much we spent on electricity, we needed, and all the different utilities. Can it be as that detailed? Or just
it can be as
sum up?
detailed as you want your chart of accounts to be. So if you're budgeting, and it all starts with the budget process. If your budget process is that you are budgeting all of your utilities under one line item budget, then if you want to break it out further, you create new account numbers, and then you have to break down that budget number. So you can have it as, I'm going to tell you something, and I don't recommend it, but we have towns that list out their employees separately.
I'm sorry, they list?
Each employee has their own expense line. So it can be as detailed as you want it. It all starts with your chart of accounts and what you guys want it to look at. Now, I will caution you, I think that breaking it out too much, just like I said, with each department having a place to put supplies because they want to know how many pencils each department does, seems a little like way more work than the cost to benefit ratio to me is not worth it. But like I said, we don't want the software to drive what you want. You drive the software. You have the ability to create all the accounts you want to create.
Thank you.
The budget maintenance module, I don't remember seeing that when you listed the modules that we have. Is that?
It's within the general ledger.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's an option on the main menu in the general ledger. It's not my favorite part of it. You can put the budget numbers in and that's pretty much what you can do.
But do you run that budget status report from that maintenance module?
It's in the general ledger reports menu. There's a budget status report. That's the most popular report we have. That's the report that most boards want to see. It gives you what your actuals are for revenues and the actuals for expenses in the year that you're working in.
And you mentioned that when cities have come to you in the past and have asked about a cash flow sheet, that you have a series of questions. What's been the resolution for those municipalities historically?
I don't know. The only ones I've run up against that have wanted a cash flow statement are people that are getting money and loans from Union Bank. Union Bank has been requiring it. And I don't know what the resolution was. I think probably what they did was similar to what I was saying, is that they looked at where they're at. They did an analysis outside of the system and said, okay, I know that I spend X amount on expenses every month, approximately. I know I've got this bridge project that's going to be done at the end of June and that much money is going, so they're doing their analysis outside of the system. I'm assuming that's what they ended up doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So y'all want to just jump in? We kept Cynthia almost twice as long as we intended, and it's been really helpful, Cynthia. And I expect we'll be in touch with further questions. But unless there's anything else that's a pressing conversation, I think we should release Cynthia to go to her son's birthday party.
I just want to mention one more thing. I appreciate it, but I just want to mention one more thing. So if there's any of you that are super interested in how the software works, like you really are looking for, I mean, it's supposed to rain all weekend, so it might be fun for you to do this. But on our website, under the webinars tab, starting in March of last year, March of 2024, I have started a series of webinars starting with the general ledger that really just is basic, this is how our software works. I wouldn't suggest that you go through everything, but there is something about the due to from accounts. I just did that one. There is something about budget maintenance, using that part of it. General ledger reporting. So there might be a few of them there that you might want to just take a peek at, and it might answer some of the questions that you might come up with after I'm gone today. But I'm happy to have any of you email me. If you want to email me, and if we want to have a quick conversation, if you think of something after this, it's cynthia@nimerick.com. And yeah, I'm happy to do this again if we need to, but I want you to get the most out of the software that you can and get you to where everybody's feeling comfortable with the reports that they're getting. And I mean, I work with Stacy quite a bit. Stacy and I know each other pretty well, so.
I noticed the webinars from your website this week, and I hadn't clicked on one, but can anybody access those? You don't need to have some type of login?
You can. No, you don't. If you go to the webinars and you click on whatever webinar you want, it will ask you to register, but there's no it's all part of the support contract, and they're just out there for anybody to watch.
Great, thank you.
I think that's what I may have run into. I think there was something that asked me to register your login when I was looking.
Yeah, it looks like you're registering for the class, but once you put your name in, it'll just pop the video up.
Okay.
And it's me in my house, an hour every few weeks, and sometimes you hear the dog bark. My granddaughter's been here, sometimes you hear the baby cry, so just know that we're not, like I said, we're not Microsoft, we're just a little Vermont company.
Thank you so much for taking the time on your Friday to walk us through, and having those resources at our fingertips I think a couple of us might be pleased in that.
The other great resource we have here is Chip Stearns. He has been with Nimerick him and I both took a break to become a town manager in a town, so we kind of been here about the same amount of time, but he was the one that originally set up Newport City. So he remembers working there. He knows he's their water and sewer guru. So feel free to email him as well. It's chip@nimerick.com, and he can answer some more technical things than I can, custom report kind of stuff.
Great, so is it Adam that is the help around security and specific, is that following the pattern of adam@nimric.com?
Yep, it is.
Great. All right, yeah, because I was thinking we could, if we have questions as we go, we can have kind of like a running Google Doc and.
Yeah, and I'm happy to facilitate the conversations. So if you guys want to just send to me, and then I'll give it to whoever it needs to be.
We can follow that chain of command for sure.
Yeah, do that because, yeah.
So we're not going all over the place.
Then I can make sure it gets answered.
Well, thank you so very much. Yeah, if we have any follow-up questions, we'll reach out to you. Yeah.
Okay, nice to meet you all. Have a good weekend. Try to
you.
get out of here tonight. It's beautiful. Enjoy the weather.
Happy birthday to your son.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
See ya.
So, if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna leave so I can go back, finish cooking. And Rick, I heard your spiel last night, so,
Yeah, you know where we are, so that's fine.
yeah. So when the meeting is over, if you guys don't mind just clicking off of all of this and putting it over here, that'd be great.
I'll walk somebody through it if we need it, if they need help.
Okay, thanks you guys.
Thank you, Lori.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thanks, Claire, for your setup skills and answering these questions.
So Carter, should I jump in maybe and just give the update that I've got? I haven't had a chance to update you on it yet either.
All right, all ears, still fighting.
Okay. The good news is that I'm finally on the outskirts of Troy, and I think this crazy cell phone coverage is back. So I had a meeting this week with our banker, Ellen Stanley from Sumsic Bank, and the news that kind of knocked my socks off, that we really are going to have to figure out what to do something about, is that I was under the mistaken impression that we had a $2.8 million line of credit, only $1.8 million of which was extended. Therefore, we have $1 million potentially that we could borrow over the next 3 months to buy us some time while we figure out how to deal with our challenges and kind of the longer term questions. And what I learned in my meeting with Ellen is that while it's true that we only owe $1.8 million on that line of credit, it's not a revolving line. So we extended it to $2.4 million last summer. Then we paid it down to $2.45 million. And then we borrowed back to $1.8 million. We borrowed another $350,000. And so what you have to do to know what we have left to borrow is add the 2.4 that we borrowed last summer plus the $350,000 added to it. And that means we've actually borrowed $2.75 million to get to the $2.8 million line, and there's only $50,000 left. So it was pretty shocking. I now understand that there are actually rules that govern whether or not a municipality can, well, they say the municipality cannot have a revolving line of credit. So our bottom line is that on June 30th, we have to find a way to pay off that line of credit. And between now and then, we obviously have to pay our bills. We've got income in May, which is good news for the property tax payments. But there's one other big piece of it, which is that we will owe over the course of the next 3 months or so, $875,000 for the light project, the renovation of the traffic lights on the Causeway Road. And the contract that we've committed to, and we have to finish that work up. Once we pay that out, $370,000 of the roughly $875,000 bill is reimbursable, and $500,000 roughly is not reimbursable. And there's no money that I'm aware of sitting anywhere that we've been saving for that $500,000 match that we have to provide. So in addition to our regular expenses, we're going to have to come up with that really $875 up front, and then if we move quickly over the course of a month to 6 weeks, we can likely get the $370 from grant, one from Northern Border Regional Commission, $50,000, and one from USDA for $120,000. So the cash flow situation is pretty bleak, and I asked Jim when I met with him yesterday to try and work with Stacy, and basically confirming what I just heard from Cynthia, to work kind of outside of NEMRIC with us to create a spreadsheet for us that tries to second guess what income we're going to be getting and expense we're going to have, and where and when we may actually no longer have money to pay the bills, so that we know just how much time we have, and we can go after some ways to solve the problem in the short term. And then the last thing I'll say is that in the wake of that information from Ellen Stanley, I've set up 2 meetings for Wednesday morning next week that any of you are welcome to join me on if you can. I expect them to be a half hour each. One is with our auditors to make sure that we fully understand whatever they think we should be understanding from the audit. That's 9 o'clock Wednesday morning, and then another one, I may have it backward, another one at 9:30 with someone from the Vermont Bond Bank to help me and any of you who would like to join me better understand what the possibilities are around borrowing through the Vermont Bond Bank to solve either the short or the long-term problem, though I suspect really that's the long-term problem, because that would require going to a bond vote. So it's been a pretty challenging week, and I feel like I'm getting my head around it again, trying to make peace with the reality that we're confronting. But I wanted you all to know that information and then help me figure out what the next questions are that we need to be asking.
Well, thank you, Rick. One day you're gonna have good news for us. It's gonna be good.
When is the light project?
I could swing up to Wednesday meetings. I don't know if you've extended the invite to other council members, but
June 30th.
to make sure that isn't
I thought that was the
being compromised, but I'm free and able to join us, so I will.
Okay, great. I'll keep that in
Open it
mind.
up to anybody else, but I keep mentioning Google, but I am going to set up kind of a streamlined place for a lot of these resources that we're hearing about, minutes, and maybe some just like, this is the update, so people can easily be in the know. So if you're not able to, because we all work full time, I'm going to make there be a central location for all this information. So no pressure there. All right. So takeaway or action items, where do we go? We asked that question of who next? Is this when we kind of look at our city staff folk and see what would be helpful for us to take up, like knowing this now and knowing that there are some things out there, and I'm just trying to define and figure out what is our next thing to tackle. Hopefully help.
So Carter, I'll help a little bit. Rick told me I had to be quiet, but I'm gonna try to help you a little bit. First of all, I've tried to use the custom reports. My background is in accounting, and I ran a $25 million healthcare facility for 15 years. And it's a DOS-based system, so you actually have to go in and pick fields, and you end up creating an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, it's almost useless, honestly. Okay, now if I'm accustomed to building cash flow stuff outside of the system, but we first need to be able to print some sort of financial statement report, prior year comparisons, budget comparisons, so on and so forth, so that you can get your total number of expenditures. You can't go through, I do agree with her that the chart of accounts is ridiculous. You can't follow it. And the only report that I can see is a detailed transaction, a trial balance, okay? And it doesn't summarize anything for you. So you can go back and pull that information out and at least use your expenses and your revenue. Then you can, take off all non-cash expense, add in all of your asset expenses that you're coming in, and you can come up with a system, but you've got to have these numbers produced out of NEMRIC. And the idea, trust me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, of trying to go in there and pull fields from a system that you didn't program like you did 20 years ago, okay? You need someone from there to sit down and do it with you, build at least a profit loss report, a financial report, where you can print summaries so you can pull these large numbers out and then flow them into a cash flow report. And realistically, I wouldn't even worry about a profit and loss. You need cash projected now, within 3 weeks, and it needs to be done for the next 4 months now. All right, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you.
I hate to admit it, but he's right. Something's gonna be done very quickly. I'm working on what's gonna look like a cash flow thing, but you have to pull, you can run a report that tells you how much tax income has come in per month. You can do a revenue report that tells you where your revenue is. Then you have to subtract the school out of it to get to the other revenue, and then you gotta go to expenses. You have to pull from 3 or 4 different reports to get a number. And it's not an easy thing, but we're working on it. And the other thing is that this water tower, when they start construction on that water tower, unless we borrow money to finish that project and segregate the funds, all those payments are coming out of the general fund also, because the general fund pays that.
Is that water and sewer?
Yeah, the water tower. Then they're supposed to reimburse the general fund the expense, but they're running at a loss all the time anyway, so there's no money to pay it back with. And I was as surprised as Rick was on that that's not a revolving fund, because we've been operating, up until the last couple of years, we never drew on the line of credit. We always took one out, we never drew it. But I've always drawn, paid back, drawn again. And I was surprised to hear that Rick was. I pulled out the loan agreement, and it doesn't say that in that agreement at all, but evidently state statute says you can't do that, so.
So crazy question, knowing that you're working on it, when's your first draft of kind of a cash flow statement, when you hoping to have that?
I'll try to get it to you about the middle of next week, but it's a time-consuming thing, really.
Oh yeah,
And then for the last 3 months, I'm not going to be able to give you an estimate guess at what I think it's going to be. We know that payroll's 120, 30,000 every 2 weeks, plus whatever expenses we got.
no point in throwing anyone under the bus. We gotta drive what we got.
So Jim, normally in an entity this large, what you're doing is you're trying to use the financial statements to pull total expenses out, okay, and then total revenue out, and then you get those two things for the year. And then you're gonna back off any non-cash expense, and you're going to add in any expense that's not included as what we call expense asset account, so on and so forth. Okay, so if NEMR can't produce that those expense numbers for you.
No, I'm on the spot, that's good.
If NEMR can't,
Sorry, I've relocated.
Yeah, I can only extract from the reports I can get.
it's gonna be very difficult to make it accurate then, because you need to be able to pull out of your accounting
I don't think it's
software.
gonna be down to a penny or a dollar.
Do you expect enough tax revenue to come close to the line of credit liability?
I think if everything goes the way it's supposed to, everybody pays what they're supposed to, we'll have enough to pay the $1.8 million off and the school, because we owe the school $5 million. I mean, $2.6 million on June 5th.
The first 6 months, yeah. So at this point, it's really, Rick, I don't know. It's your meetings are at 9 o'clock Wednesday morning. Do you need this stuff by 9 o'clock Wednesday morning in some way, shape, or form?
I think that would would be helpful, yes.
So I guess it's,
I'll do my best.
yeah, I would say that's no holds barred, everybody. And I apologize, I didn't meet you earlier, so I'll say hi.
Hi, Stacy.
And where the meetings being held?
That's
Here?
Rick.
It'll be virtual.
Okay.
Because I'll still be, Carter and I will both still be away. I'll be doing it from Philadelphia and Carter from California.
Can you send those links out?
So I will send those links as soon as I have them. Yes, it'll be sometime over the weekend. I'll get to setting those links up.
Okay. And I missed this when you were going over everything, just to clarify, the light project that we have to fulfill, does that have the same deadline, 6:30? No? When is that due?
So what's going on with that one is that Tom is trying to complete that project by mid to late summer.
Okay.
And so he's signing contracts now, and I'm sure we will be invoiced as they go along. So it's not going to hit us as one lump sum, but I don't know exactly what the payment schedule is going to be yet either.
Okay.
You know, part of what I'm wondering, based on the conversation we just heard, I'd love to hear what you all think about this, is, you know, a practice scenario for trying to get somebody into the position in our financial and office administrative position is likely at this point to be at least mid-May, and it could be later. And unless we hire somebody who knows NEMRIC inside and out, we still are going to have a steep learning curve. So I wonder if we ought to explore a contract with NEMRIC to help us get the reports set up that we want, so that we can begin addressing at least the short-term issue about lack of good information.
Right.
I don't think that's up for debate.
We can look through the FAQs on their website too, just to make sure that there's no existing report before we
Great.
outlay any more cash that we don't have.
Thank you.
Just a
Voice of
suggestion.
reason.
Yeah, but we should at least figure out the consulting fee, what it would be, because they're going to, even if it's not exactly what we want, they will probably be able to get us the most accurate information the quickest, and this is a time crunch.
So I would be willing to send a note to Cynthia on Monday morning that asks two questions. One is what the cost differential is if we switch over to the online system from the running it off our own server. What would the additional cost be? Because I assume there will be one. And second, what is the what would it look like to have a relationship for remote support to help us with our finance stuff, which is at this point primarily about getting good reporting going.
And forgive me, but why is moving to the cloud-based system beneficial to us? Can they not?
I don't know, but I'd like to know what it costs.
Okay.
I mean, in my experience in other nonprofits, it has eventually just seemed like the most logical thing to do. For one thing, I don't know what we do if our server crashes.
Yeah.
Well, we back up. I have 3 backups every night, and we store them. We alternate backups, and they're stored in a vault. And I do also 2 monthly backups that stay within house. Because if not, you have to pay them to store it. So we just do it in house.
That's good to know.
Everything's backed up.
Yeah, state.
And it's very
I was just gonna
simple.
say, that was one of the main features, and I'm glad that Stacy, that's your part of your practice as is, because that's the main, I think, alert to me is, you know, unfortunately things happen, we get hacked, we have to know that we have records consistently. That was my main, well, that's in place.
Do we know what reports that this consulting with Memorax can give us that Stacy can't generate within a week without going to Memorax?
I think it's primarily the speed of using that system.
Well, they can dwindle down and hone in on just certain accounts where I can't do that. Like if you only want.
So there is
10 accounts.
there's a remote option. It works very well. They get right on. Somebody's going to have to sit down with them. You're going to have to decide what you want to build for a report, and you're going to have to sit down while they're working on your computer, and they're going to have to build this report by pulling this field and this field and this field and this field. It's very complicated and very time-taking. It certainly could be done, though.
But you're envisioning them coming here.
No,
to do it?
they're from
They
right
can remote log
there,
in.
from right where they are.
Yeah, even on the desktop.
Thank you.
Yeah. Problem is, it's software that was dated 30 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you look at the stuff online,
Create the reports out of you export it into an Excel spreadsheet program.
yeah.
What are the most common reports you're running now?
Budget status reports, expense reports, revenue reports,
Trial
trial
balance.
balance.
Is that what we have here?
I don't know what you have.
I don't know what this is. I didn't know if you guys had prepared any examples of the reports that you guys are building.
I brought some, just in case.
The trial balance, give you the budget. what you
These are the
spent, what
reports
you-
these are the reports that can be printed from general ledger. Balance sheet, expenditure report, budget status report.
She mentioned budget maintenance. Do you ever run something like that?
That's the budget.
That's when
That's the
you're,
whole
Put the budget
status
in.
report, okay.
no, that's when you just enter the budget into
All
that.
the budget, yeah.
That's
Gotcha.
it.
Oh, but the report that she had mentioned was the budget.
Status report.
She said that would get us the closest box to a cash flow, I think.
Oh, these aren't all the same.
Nope, they're all different
They're
reports
all
that can be generated.
Okay.
Those are the typical reports ran. Typically, it's a budget status report, expense report, revenue report. Those are the ones people.
Before anybody digs through any of these, when you run these, what are you taking out of them?
Those are just everything, all the expenses that's occurred from July 1 to current,
Okay, so I've got expenses from
in revenues, expenses and revenues from July.
expenses, revenue, and just any of these reconcile them, I'd have to go through them. I'm just wondering, maybe not what you're taking out, what are you doing with the information in them? What's happening with it?
I just produce it for the council if they want to see
Yeah.
where they are.
They get the reports.
It used to be the city manager and the financial, what was her title?
Comptroller or what?
Comptroller.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would take some of this information and put it in different spreadsheets and stuff, but they're no longer here, so.
So right now, we're producing reports, and I'm not harping on anyone. Right now, we've got reports that we're not really using to do anything with.
Yeah, that no one, honestly, Kyle, that no one knows how to understand. I mean, this was my frustration throughout the year as a council member. I kept asking, what's our status? And I'd be handed that pack of papers with no explanation and no real ability myself to interpret what was in it.
Gotcha.
In
So
my-
I'm asking the same question.
A one-page version, not a 50-page version.
But we have so
Or
many
a 3-page
accounts.
version, not a 50-page version.
One of the things I noticed in my research and just trying to find best practice for municipal reporting is how different it is from the business reporting. That I read one article by an expert in the field that said most people don't have anything close to a cash flow, and the councils make decisions without that information in front of them, without any idea of how it's going to impact the long-term budget, unfortunately, but it seems to be a regular issue. It's alien to me because that's just a basic report that you would have in a business, but it seems like it's industry standard for municipalities.
I think I'll say one thing. What Cynthia said about the chart of accounts is going to make any report, because it's absolutely true. Any report, try to look at that. It's very difficult to follow any of it. A lot of it is because the chart of accounts is set up in a manner that it's all over the place. And it's so large that it's very difficult to not be able to narrow it down, right?
Yeah, well, she said it's a one-digit chart of accounts, so what does that give you, up to 10?
They do letters too.
Okay, well, then,
So there's 20, 36.
yeah.
Although we only have, how many funds do we have?
Do we know of any other cities that are using another system other than Memorex, that a system that might suit our needs better? Then we could think about the cost of it and whether
there's
or
gonna be
not.
like Tyler Technologies.
Pardon?
I think there's like Tyler Technologies, I think there's Munis, there's some other groups out there. I don't know, there's like Workday, I mean.
She
there's
said
groups out there.
everybody in Vermont is using this, is
Yeah.
that what I
Right.
understood?
Yeah, if you're on the website, you can see the list of municipalities that use it. It's pretty much everybody.
But it's big bucks. It's way big bucks.
Memorex, or getting a new system.
Getting a new system,
Right.
getting a new system is big bucks. But let's deal with
When I called this week, when I talked to the folks at VLCT, I had a meeting, I can't remember now, it must have been yesterday afternoon, with Kathleen Ramsey and Marguerite Ladd from VLCT, who are kind of the municipal and finance operations specialists at VLCT. They said, in answer to a question about both the NEMRIC system and cash flow, they said, well, NEMRIC really is kind of the standard that everyone's using right now, but it has major challenges. And they also said that while it's not typical, municipalities ask for a cash flow projection, it's also not unheard of, especially in larger operations. So Burlington, South Burlington, Winooski, apparently all do cash flow projection work. But most smaller towns apparently do not, because I think the answer from Cynthia is it's got to be done in a separate spreadsheet outside of memory.
How does Burlington and the other counties that you mentioned, or the other cities that you mentioned, handle that? How do they get cash flow info?
Well, first of all, they've got large teams because they have a huge budget. So I assume they're doing, I don't know, we'd have to call an city that's most comparable to Newport and call and ask for help with it. So.
Question, can you guys export that data? I mean, you've got all that data that way. Can you just export it into an Excel spreadsheet
Yes, you can.
without any? I mean,
Yeah.
that might actually be the easiest way for you guys to just start analyzing it. I mean, if I have to go into a place where I don't know where or what's in something, I'm gonna just look at it. And by the way, I just wanna tell you, you're doing an excellent job with doing the backups and everything.
Oh,
It's probably safer that way than on the cloud from what I'm hearing.
Can you identify?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Julie Heck, and
Thank you.
I'm new to Newport. Kind of got drugged in, so. But yeah, from that standpoint, I mean, my recommendation would be actually just dump the whole thing into an Excel spreadsheet and just start looking at what your data is. Just don't even bother, like, this is gonna confuse you more. I bet you when you start looking at the data, you're gonna be like, oh, wait, this is starting to make more sense. So that's usually where I start if I have to come in and rescue something, so.
Well, Rick, at this point, it's kind of like we have to figure something. I mean, it's almost like we know that we don't know what we need to know. So then how do we figure it out? So I guess let's throw it down on the table. What steps do we need to take to, as Julie was mentioning, there's option one is put stuff, I think it's better to work with an end in mind. So if we can come up with something that looks like, and I don't care how, as long as it's even vague, let's at least start getting towards something that shows current cash on hand and calendar out what expected outflows are. And it can be, I mean, I don't care if it just says we have $50,000 in the bank. Here's what's going to happen over the next 6 months in expected outflows. And the bottom line says, or there's another line that says expected inflows. And I mean, even that sounds like it would be more information. Would that be more information than what we have now? Something that's straightforward. Let's not overbake this. Let's start simple and just shoot for that.
Make it too complicated.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be that simple. Cash on
Deadlines
hand.
for outflows too.
Cash on hand, outflows for the next 6 months, and projected. I mean, you've been around the block long enough. Say, usually when the tax bills go out, what is that, May?
They're due the
They
15th.
go out, Hayes will go out
They went out in September.
the bill, 2 coupons on it. Get one for November 15th, one for May 15th.
Okay, since I'm so new, I haven't gotten the first one. I just paid with my closing, so hopefully
You better check.
Yeah, well, I've already done it once, but I better make sure that I can pay it, or not can pay it. It's more that I have the thing to pay. You probably have a pretty good feel of, hey, you know what? Within 30 days, we get 50%, and then the other 50%, or
Well,
45% trickle in over the next 3
some
months.
people will pay for the whole year in the first round, but.
At least
I
as
think
long-
we're due to collect about a little over $4.5 million in May.
Then we put that on there, and say, I would put like 3.8 million, and then put a couple hundred thousand on the back end, for the slow trickle in for people to pay late. But if we can at least get that much, I think we're light years ahead. Don't worry about separating out, like you said. I would love to have a wonderful chart of accounts that got into some granular detail, but we're going to lose the forest through the trees in that situation. Let's just focus on the big picture. By Tuesday, we can get that high level. That would be putting us light years ahead. Would you agree, Rick? Would that help out? Just even that broad picture, and then once we have the broad picture, then we can start looking for stuff.
I agree entirely.
We get the $4.5 million, and that'll pay for the school, and the $1.8 million we owe to the bank. They're still gonna leave a deficit, but.
I don't care if there's a deficit or there's a bonus,
We've still got to operate for 3 months.
Exactly, but let's get it on paper so we can start digging into it. If we can have that kind of general, I don't care how bleak the picture is.
Yeah. And you don't expect these.
No, in fact, I don't want to pad it at all. I'll just say, for me, we have a short-term issue, which is if we're going to get hit coming up short in 3 weeks or 6 weeks, we need to know that so that I can go try and do something at the bank to buy us some time.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if there was a contingency plan to do that, to float, is there another financial institution?
Everyone got their wallet on them?
That might be in a position to assist, just so we don't default on, the line of credit.
We're gonna have to borrow money, that's the bottom line, I think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we talked about that last week. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So I would turn off the phone, and unless it's mission critical, people are, like their house is burning. This is mission critical, and Monday and Tuesday, I would just throw a sign on the door saying, in-house workshop, talk to you Wednesday.
But I'm coming to see you for a marriage license on Monday morning, so.
Oh, can't do it.
7 o'clock though, I'll be out of your hair.
I already see a ring on your finger. You don't need a marriage license. But I mean, it's that fire drill.
There are other
That's exactly right.
There are other sources of income, obviously, that we get through the year, other than the real estate taxes. Can we also add in the ones that are guaranteed to come in before whatever that date is, whether it's Derby money or whatever money that we know is coming for income?
Yeah.
And can we also have sort of a parentheses section of what grant money we expect to come in for certain on a certain date? We understand grant money might not, but just so that we have an idea of whether or not that might help us out.
Well, I think most of the grant money is contingent upon outflow, so it's never a net positive for us. So even just having the outflow on there, that's going to paint a more realistic picture, because the grant money could take, I've seen grants even though you've done the work. And it's not like there's more manpower at the federal level right now to help make money move. It's going to be 6 to 10 months. You know, it could be 6 days, it could be 6 months. But
Okay.
I agree. No, I agree with you 100%. But I think even just knowing the outflows and the grants, because the grant, it's all going to be timing right now. Just the big picture. If it can get layered in by Tuesday, awesome. But I would just slap a sign on the door, in service. Talk to you Wednesday. Sorry,
Yeah, we'll come
I'm
up-
being a bit of a jerk, Rick, and to everybody, I'm being a bit
No,
of a jerk.
honestly, I think that's a good idea. I mean, Jim and Stacy and Robin are going to have to decide how to handle that. But it may be as simple as Robin takes all the work at the counter for a day or 2 days, while Jim and Stacy hibernate in the back room or something. Because I agree entirely. There is no more important question right now than what our immediate cash flow looks like.
Yeah, I mean, if we can tell what we brought in, what we spent, what we got coming, and what we think we're gonna spend. You gotta keep in mind, the general fund is paying the water and sewer bills.
Yeah, even a fuzzy
And
picture is
also-
better than what we got. And then that's something the bank and auditors can look at.
And Jim, I can provide you with some indication of what we're going out and getting in with the grants
For
in
the
the next
grants,
few
yeah.
We've been
months.
working on that,
Yeah, because we don't know the
Yeah.
back part of it.
Yeah, I can provide you that. He's right in the fact that it's somewhat unpredictable, but some of it is at this particular point. I think I can help you if you need that.
Rick, you think that the bank is open to renegotiating the terms?
So, Susie, I know they want to be helpful. There are 2 caveats. One is that because we've basically fully extended the $2.8 million line of credit, this is no longer in the hands of the senior commercial lender. Anything that we ask for in addition to this is going to have to go through their board of directors. So that's one challenge. And secondly, I don't understand fully the legal implications of what we can and can't ask for on the strength of a council vote as opposed to going to the community. And so some of the meetings that I have lined up for next week are designed to help us learn the answer to that question.
Okay.
Because that's going to, we have to move quickly. So I will be working for those questions in.
Guarantee them 500 new consumer accounts.
yeah. I don't know if I can ask a question. Is there any way to maybe do a spending freeze only for essentials for a little bit? I mean, I don't know that any department heads, like, if you can put off buying something for a month or two until you know how much income you've got coming in, or after tax dollars come in. I mean, that's,
So I'll just say, I'm willing to consider that, but I'm not willing to consider it until I see a cash flow projection.
right.
And the reason is that it makes no sense to put everybody on the staff in an uproar, not to mention the community, if doing so is going to have a negligible impact on the challenge.
True.
So something I don't understand, you're gonna tell me, Jim, that if you pay the 1.8 back before July 1st, that you can't turn around and draw off that line anymore?
That's what they said.
Yeah, it's not, he said it's not revolving. Yeah.
I
you have to
didn't
apply for
realize it.
What type of line of credit is that? I never heard
It's
of
a
it.
law. They said you can't
And then
have
the
it.
statute says you can't do that.
Because I'm sure someone in
What Ellen Stanley
someday,
said,
Just kept,
what Ellen Stanley said to me is that we have to pay that note off by the end of the year. And they're not going to be amenable to simply asking to start over with a new $2.8 million line of credit and then using that credit to pay off that loan. Like there's no, she said, if you want to deal with the line of credit that the hole that you've got at this point, there are better vehicles to do that with than a line of credit with that kind of interest and those kind of terms. So if you want to, that's a separate question, how we're going to deal with the fact that we're not just without a cash reserve, we're also in deficit mode. So we don't know enough to answer that question yet either, but it's certainly an important one.
That's where that.
And the water and sewer, I'll just say water and sewer task force last night had an extended conversation about this and agreed that their highest priority is to make sure that we have a recommendation to council by the end of April on what to do with our rates for next year to do our level best to avoid deficit spending in 25-26 fiscal year. And then the second question will be, how do we address the deficit, and where does that deficit, like if we have to take a loan for capital stabilization, what are the legal implications about where that loan can be lodged? Does it have to go to the operations side? Can it go to the water and sewer? Is it some combination? And we just don't know enough to answer that question yet.
Yeah, because we need to know how to get the money that's owed to the general fund from water and sewer. A substantial amount of money. And the due to do from. A lot of money.
Oh,
It's the amount of what you've drawn almost, isn't it?
Huh?
Isn't it almost the amount that you've drawn off the line of credit?
Almost.
Yes.
well,
They do from, yeah.
that sounds like it's a fight for another day.
That's right.
So what else can we conclude today? Other than we have limited information, we know that the software that we use is archaic. We're not using a SaaS-based solution, we're using a hosted on-site premise solution, which is secure. That's why I think Julia was asking about the SOC 2 compliance reports, because we don't want anyone stealing all that stuff. But that's their problem if we go to the cloud, which is not gonna happen today, tomorrow, or even next month. So we've got the cards in our hand. What else can we accomplish?
Get you some reports to look at so you know where you stand. That was the next step.
And maybe, I'm more than happy to do it, and I don't know if I can pull it off next week because I'm traveling out of town. I'm happy to come in like some morning. I'd love to go through the stack and see if there's anything we can glean from the stack. Or if there's something you think we should glean from the stack, or Rick should glean from the stack. That would be another thing on for this week, is like, hey, boom, you need to know this. This is important and relevant from the stack. That would be huge, because I'm looking at it with unknowing eyes.
Right.
So anything you guys can say, hey, this is relevant on top of the cash flow. But I'm chewing the soup, so Carter, it's your beast here.
And just listening and following and learning with you guys on this, and taking extensive notes. But I think, what do we think is an appropriate, what's our next, agenda? Is there any homework, or is it just like try to get those cash flow numbers, and then once we do have that, feel like that's data is actually workable and digestible, whether it's an Excel sheet, whether it's a new report, and then kind of meeting up and rounding up once we have those things in place. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes, I think that's right, Carter. I think we're done. We've done the work we can do for today. We know what our next steps are. I think, Hal, if I'm hearing you say that you could kind of and do a little bit of digging with, I would certainly welcome that.
Got a child.
Yeah. Could you say that again, Rick? I think I got it all, but we had.
I was just saying, I think if I'm hearing you correctly in saying that what I heard you say, I think, was that you could maybe find a time to drop in and actually do a little bit of digging with Stacy and Jim. And I just want to say, I think that would be a great idea, because it could give us that much more info.
Yeah, I'd be happy to just sit, I can schedule, what time do you guys get in? I don't even know what time the window opens.
Early.
Our door unlocks at 8.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look for a time next week that we can maybe get an hour or something and dig into it, but I'm leaving town on Wednesday, so.
Are you in on Monday, Frank?
Who, me? Yeah.
Yeah, you are, Frank. Are you in? So you'll come down and
But
give us...
I would rather postpone that aspect until the cash flow is done,
Right.
because that's gonna be the most critical thing. So I'm not gonna postpone your time until that's dealt with.
Yeah.
That'll be my Monday project.
I'm currently working on something, and I'll continue to do it with Stacy's help when she's available.
Cool.
We have things that have to be done.
Yeah. No, I
I
understand.
just throw this out, projecting just payroll between now and the end of the year, about 800,000.
Yeah.
That's payroll only.
The end of the fiscal year?
Yeah, in the fiscal year. 3 months away.
How many employees do we have in this town?
45.
1.8 million.
Yeah. Well, that's all my questions.
Coach Trey, let's assume that there might not be a meeting next week, but we'll let you know if numbers come through. Sorry, I also am like very cognizant of the space. I know these are noise canceling for me, but not for y'all.
Looks like you got some sun, Carter.
Yeah, I've got to go.
Yeah, like, please,
Thank you,
You look
Jim.
healthy.
So what time?
Are you gonna bang the gavel, Carter, and close the meeting?
I know it's open today.
I think this is appropriate, yeah, I don't think we're gonna get Rick back, but thank you guys so much for, being here today. I mean, I'll circle back with, I'll be sharing folders and a whole Google organization thing that's coming your way, but until